Okay, good morning. Welcome everybody to the Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra, our regular Sunday meditation practice. So my name's Jeff, and I'm going to take you through a standard sort of meditation practice and then give a short talk on Bodhi Day, what is Bodhi Day and the significance of Bodhi Day, because that's this Wednesday coming up. So I won't talk any more about that now. I'll save that till afterwards. So there's a sheet of paper you've got in front of you. We usually do some quick prayers to set our intention and thoughts for our sit. So the refuge and enlightenment thought is the first sort of little paragraph, and then the four immeasurable thoughts is the second paragraph. So we'll just do those together before we start our meditation. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment. By virtue of giving and the like, I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Thank you. If you settle into a comfortable seated position, I should say you can do this. The position is not quite as vital as what you do with your mind, so you can do it in a chair or on a cushion. You can do it lying down or even standing up. Trouble with lying down is you will, if you're anything like me, have a tendency to fall asleep. So as the sound of the bell disappears, drop your attention into your body. Just let it rest in your body for the moment, wherever it settles. Let's just slow our body down, slow our mind down, bring our attention into the room, into the here and the now. And just for a moment, think about your intention for sitting today. So intention within Buddhism is very important, because that leads to our actions. So there's no right or wrong intention really, whether you just want to practice, want to discover something new, want to escape the stresses of your life for a moment. And as you settle on your intention, bring your focus now to your breath. Let's just watch our breath for a few breaths in and out. To get that settled and regular. Now I will invite you to move your attention to your feet as we start some body scans. Of course, as always, feel free to do your own thing if you have your preferred technique. Don't cling to what I'm saying. But as we turn our attention to our feet, just check in with them. Check in for any worries or stresses, tension, soreness. If you're sitting in a chair, try to have your feet flat on the floor, about hip width apart. Now move your attention slowly up your legs, checking in with our shins and our calves. Moving up to our knees. And again, just check there any tension or soreness without judgment. Continue moving up to our thighs. And then to our hips and our pelvic girdle. So here, if you're sitting in a chair, try to sit forward. If you're sitting on a cushion, try to sit on the forward edge of the cushion so that your pelvic girdle is tilted forward slightly. Takes the pressure off your back, takes the pressure off your hip flexors, allows you to sit a little longer. And it opens the energy channels between your legs and your torso. Now let's move up, following our spine. Just visualize your vertebrae stacked neatly on top of each other as you trace your spine slowly upwards, checking that it is nice and tall and straight, but without being too stiff. If you're sitting in a chair, please sit forward off the backrest. And however you are meditating, you might take this moment just to move forward and backward a little, or side to side a little, and find your balance point. You want your shoulders balanced nicely above your hips so that your back can stay straight. If you're too far forward, your back muscles will be heavily engaged. If you're too far back, your stomach muscles will be heavily engaged. We want the middle way, the balance. Once you reach your shoulders, let them fall, let them relax. Maybe even pull them backwards a tiny little bit, not too much pressure. This opens up your chest, makes you sit in a very noble position, paying homage and reverence to the act of meditating. And as we move down our arms, check in there again for any soreness. Moving all the way down to our forearms and onto our hands. Here your hands, the usual position are your hands to be facing upwards with your thumbs gently touching. The right hand resting in the palm of the left, representing a balance between compassion and wisdom. And then let them fall naturally into your lap. Some people may find it useful to have a little cushion in their lap that they can rest their hands on. So let's move our attention steadily back up our arms now, noting our elbows are a little bit away from our body to allow for some circulation of air, coolness. As we move up to our neck, let's keep following our vertebrae up the back of our spine and our neck to where it joins our skull, and then up to the crown of our skull, where we can imagine a little piece of strings gently pulling our skull upwards. And this keeps our head balanced above our shoulders, which are balanced above our hips. As we cross over the top of our head and down our forehead, your eyes may be closed or open. If they're open, allow your gaze to fall gently on some object about a metre or so in front of you, without focusing on that object. Just let your eyes fall and rest. Moving down our nose, this is where we breathe, in and out through our nose. As we move on to our lips, which are in a very slight smile, a little Mona Lisa smile. And our tongue is resting gently on the roof of our mouth behind our front teeth. And as we move down to our chin, it's slightly tucked in, which gives our head the perfect position to sit. So we're scanning back now all through that, through our chin, tongue, lips, nose, eyes, forehead, crown of our head, down to our neck, shoulders, down and back a little, scanning all the way down to our hands. And slowly all the way back up to our shoulders and down our spine. All the while checking for posture, checking in, giving gratitude even for our body. We reach our hips, we curve around our hips and down our legs to our knees, all the way down to our ankles and feet. And that is one body scan from our feet up and back down again. I did that very slowly because I was explaining different parts. So usually you would go a little quicker than that. But the speed at which you scan is irrelevant. I will leave you now a few moments of silence to complete a few body scans up and down, checking in with your posture, checking in with your body, which is how we experience the vast majority of the universe, is through our body. If your mind should wander, when you become aware of that wandering, gently bring it back to your body. No judgment, no worries. Just gently guide back to your body and keep scanning. If you should have to move, then make that part of your meditation. Move mindfully, placing awareness on your movements. And once you are settled again, return to the body scans. Take yourself a mini break there and attend to anything that urgently needs your attention. Mini breaks are just as important as the sit itself, because it allows you to tend to anything that is urgent deliberately, and then reset yourself to do another bout of focused meditation. Over time, these mini breaks will get shorter and fewer in frequency, just naturally because of your abilities to focus and concentrate and sit. Now I'll invite you to change your attention of your meditation to your breath. And here we are watching our body breathe. You may place your attention on the tip of your nose and watch the air enter and exit your body there. You may place your attention on your belly and watch that rise and fall. You could even turn your attention to the air itself and watch it enter your nose, travel down into your lungs, Watch it fill your lungs, and then watch your lungs contract and push that air back up out of your nose and drift off into the universe. Or you may just sit in your body without any specific point of focus and watch the beautiful breath sustain you. The individual point of your meditative practice is not too important. So whatever you find most useful or beneficial, go with that. So here we are not moving our breath, we're just letting our body breathe. Some breaths will be shorter than others. Sometimes you may stop breathing altogether for a moment. So don't judge or evaluate, criticize, just watch. The goal here with breath meditation or mindfulness of the breath is to be able to sit or stand or lie and watch your breath without distraction, without your mind wandering for a good length of time. But for most of us, that is a little tricky. So we can add some handles onto our breath which allow us to hold on a little better. One of those handles is counting our breath. So as we breathe in, we note we are breathing in. As we breathe out, we note we are breathing out, and we count 1. The next inhalation, and then exhalation, we count 2. Breathe in, and as we let our body breathe out for the 3rd time, we count 3. We continue to count until we reach about 10. Again, the number is not too important at this particular point. Ten is a good number. It's not so frequent. You keep starting again at 1. And it's not too many that you lose count of where you're up to because you just can't remember what number comes next. Like 54, 56, or was it 55? So once you reach 10, without distraction, count back down again to 1. When your mind does wander, and you notice it wandering, gently, without criticism, bring it back to your breath and start counting again from 1. So now I'll be quiet for a few moments and let you breathe and count. Take another little mini break there if you should need it. And as you return your focus, we'll stay with the breath, but we'll explore another handle that we can use to help us follow the breath. This is watching the parts. Just allow your body to breathe as it has done for the last few years, however old you are. And if you turn your attention to the inhalation, you'll notice that it starts off slowly, but builds in speed and volume until you reach the middle of the inhalation, when it changes and starts tapering off again towards the end. So we have the tapered beginning, the full middle, and the tapered end. And then we turn and start to breathe out. And our exhalation is very similar to the inhalation, where it starts off slow but builds rather quickly to push all the air out of our lungs. So it builds in speed and volume, but then tapers off again towards the end of the exhalation and eventually stops. Not only is this a wonderful observation of impermanence, everything that starts must come to an end. These little handles allow us just to watch our breath and stay in the moment, stay with the practice. At the end of the exhalation, there is another turn, a change in direction as we start the next inhalation. So in these 8 parts, there is much to be observed. And we observe them like a scientist does an experiment. No judging or criticizing or evaluating. Just objective noting. We watch how fast the beginning grows. Could note how long it is. And we note how fast the middle is, how big, how much air is being pulled into our lungs. And then we note the change in direction as we start tapering off towards the end of that inhalation. And we note where that inhalation finally concludes, and we change to an exhalation. Noting that build-up, the beginning to the middle of the exhalation, and then as it tapers away to the end of that exhalation. You can compare it to the inhalation if you wish. It may be longer or shorter, but there's no criticism of that. It is as it should be. And then we change direction for the next inhalation. You might note if there's a pause in that change in direction. Do you go immediately from the finish of the inhalation into an exhalation, or is there a slight pause? And same at the bottom of the exhalation. So now, with much to observe, I'll be quiet again and let you focus on your breathing and these 8 parts of your breath. Again, if your mind should wander, as it probably most inevitably will, just gently bring it back to your breath. Again, no criticism. This is exactly what the practice is. Your mind will wander because that's what it does. Your job is to catch it gently with all the love and compassion you can muster. Guide it back to your breath. Where is your mind? Has it wandered off without you noticing? It's okay if it has. Just gently bring it back to your breath. And for these last few moments of our sit today, I invite you to drop all handles. Drop all mental chatter. See if you can maintain focus without any assistance on the beautiful breath. Try hard to just sit. Let your body disappear. Let your mind disappear. All there is breathing. when you're ready, I invite you to come back into the room or back into the screen if you're on Facebook. Maybe wiggle your fingers, stretch a little. Be grateful to yourself for having given yourself this time and ultimately given this time to the universe. Because in my opinion, the reason we sit is to become better than what we were, better human beings. Move towards the Bodhisattva vows, if that's your path. And in doing so, we can then give back to the universe, we can give back to our friends and family. So this is certainly not a selfish act, just to take a few moments, or a few hours each day, to come home, to recenter, to refocus. There's one paragraph we say where we request the teachings. So together, please, I ask you to say, in accordance to the intelligence and predisposition of each being, we ask that you turn the Dharma wheel of great flow and common vehicles. So my talk today is relatively short. But it's on Bodhi Day. So let me bring up my notes. So Bodhi Day this year is the 8th of December, and in most years it is one of the few that doesn't change around too often. It is the 8th of December most years, but it can change dates. And depending on tradition, depending on what tradition you follow, it may be a different time of the year, or it may actually be wrapped up and included in other special days. So not all traditions of Buddhism separate Bodhi Day out to have its own day. But in general, Bodhi Day is the day when Buddha achieved enlightenment. So as I said, some traditions will wrap it up into celebrating Buddha's birth, enlightenment and death in the one. But Bodhi Day stands separate as the day he achieved enlightenment. So he achieved enlightenment in 3 sort of stages throughout his sit under the Bodhi tree. So during the first watch of the night, the Buddha discovered all of his past lives. So he saw all his cycle of rebirth, going right back to his very first birth in human form. And he realized this cycle of samsara. And the reading says then that in the second watch of the night, the Buddha discovered the law of karma. So the law of cause and effect, and how karma goes with us from rebirth to rebirth, which is a little different to the Hindu version of reincarnation. And then on the third and final watch of the night, the Buddha discovered the 4 noble truths, and with that he finally reached nirvana. So that is why essentially Bodhi Day is celebrated each year. In his own words, he says, "My heart, thus knowing, thus seeing, was released from the fermentation of sensuality, released from the fermentation of becoming, released from the fermentation of ignorance, and with release there was the knowledge. Released, I discerned that birth is ended, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There is nothing further for this world." So it's quite a big deal, I think. The Buddha, having achieved enlightenment, certainly discovered the path, or rediscovered the path for us in this lifetime. It's great, I guess, fortune for us to be alive in this time when there's a Buddha present in the world, and the path and the knowledge of the Dharma is present. It is said that it will wane and wax and come and go. There's talk of a future Buddha after the Dharma has disappeared from the universe this time around. So it is very fortunate that we are alive at a time when the Dharma is known about. I certainly feel that. So Bodhi Day is celebrated in a lot of Mahayana traditions, particularly in the Zen Pure Land schools in China, Korea, Japan and Vietnam. So services, traditions vary among people's traditions, but all such services commemorate the Buddha's achievement of enlightenment, of nirvana, finding nirvana. So what this means is, for Buddhism today, individuals may choose to commemorate the event through additional meditation or study. Decorating the house is fairly common, and I was reflecting on this with somebody the other day, that it seems very similar to Christmas, because strings of coloured lights are put up, and these represent the multiple ways that we can achieve nirvana, the multiple pathways. Sure, there's only one real path, the Eightfold Noble Path, but how you apply those to your individual life is up to you. That's why there's wisdom as part of the path. Do you understand all the different elements of Buddhism? And then you are the only ones who can apply that to your life. It's very contextual, and there's very few rules that must be obeyed. So the strings of coloured lights represent a multiple way of applying the Dharma to your individual life. A tree is usually put up. So it usually is a Bodhi tree. So it's part of the Ficus family. Ficus Religiosa is the tree that they say Buddha sat under, to the best of our knowledge. So a tree is erected. Could be a Christmas tree, could be a Bodhi Day tree, could be a ficus, could be any plant that you feel is pretty. It's not so important. And it's decorated, but usually decorated quite, with limited decoration. So usually there's 3 sort of ornaments put on the tree, and these 3 ornaments represent the triple gem, the Buddha, Dharma and the Sangha. So heart-shaped ornaments are pretty common, because they say that the leaf of the Bodhi ficus is heart-shaped, if you've ever seen one of them. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's up to the individual, really, but that's the usual tradition of 3 different ornaments. And the only other decoration on the tree is a string of beads. And this string of beads represents the interconnectedness we share with the universe. So how we are not one with the universe, as in there is only one thing and we're all part of that one thing, but how there is a multitude of us and animals and plants and minerals and all the different things that make up the universe, but we are all connected. If you know how karma and the like works, that'll make sense. So, usual tree, 3 ornaments, string of beads, and coloured lights around the house. The lights are turned on usually at night time for about 30 days is the general consensus amongst most traditions, but that doesn't seem to have any major significance. So in Japan, in Japanese Zen, this is known as Rohatsu. So Rohatsu literally means the 8th day of the 12th month. So they're really just talking about the day. So it's typical for Zen monks and lay people to followers to stay up the entire night before the 8th and meditate through the entire night and all through the day of the 8th, all through Bodhi Day. And this kind of pays homage to the commitment and the promise that Buddha himself made that he would not move until he found the answers, until he found Nirvana. Obviously, we don't need to sit for as long as he did. But staying up all through the night, meditating continuously, and then all through the day, that's a fair commitment for most people in this day and age. Don't need to talk too much more about that, I don't think. So the Chinese version of this festival is called Laba, which again means the 8th day of the 12th month of the Chinese lunar calendar. So it might not be on the 8th of December because it's a lunar calendar, but it is the 8th day of their 12th month. It's most often actually observed in January. There we go. Vesak Day or Wesak Day, depending on where you're from. So Bodhi Day is not as popular as celebrated as Vesak Day, on which the birth, enlightenment and nirvana, the final passing away, the parinirvana of the Buddha are celebrated. So in some traditions it's wrapped up into Vesak Day, in other traditions it's separated. So Bodhi tree I've talked about. Celebrations, one way of celebrating it obviously is maybe not a celebration, but certainly to pay homage and commemorate, is to stay up the night before, meditating and all through the day. Other more celebratory activities are to have a meal together with friends and family. Again, sounds very similar to what we do for Christmas. The meal traditionally is like a rice pudding, not a sweet rice pudding, but a rice pudding type meal, because that's reportedly the first meal the Buddha ate after having achieved enlightenment. So it's a very traditional meal in a lot of places throughout the year anyway, but particularly on Bodhi Day, to have that meal with friends, or at least have that dish as part of a bigger meal to celebrate and to, I guess, remember the commitment that Buddha made and his first meal after having achieved it. So multicoloured lights I've talked about, and the string. The Ficus Religiosa is the tree that most people agree is the tree that Buddha sat under. They're actually relatively expensive if you want to buy one. I don't know whether they're just difficult to find here in Australia. I know they're difficult to grow this far south in Australia. They're more of a tropical tree, but there are a couple here in Canberra. There's one at the Sri Lankan temple that's under a really beautiful construction to keep it safe, and it's growing very, very well. I'm trying to find one for myself, but they're pretty expensive. So the milk rice meal I've spoken about. On cookies. Cookies is more of a modern thing that's starting to come into the celebration of this day. People are making cookies in the shapes of hearts or anything really, stars, to include the children, to try and get the children in more to celebrate and remember. And that's really all I wanted to talk about from a point of view of Bodhi Day. It's a pretty small topic, I think, but in my mind relatively important. Whether you celebrate it or not, or just on the 8th next Wednesday go, oh, it's Bodhi Day, yay. It's not so important, but I wanted to highlight that to everybody today. So thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate the company, both here and on Facebook. If anyone has any questions about the talk or the meditation, we can, or we can say the dedication of merit and finish up there. Any questions at home or from here?
Yeah, so how often do you do meditation here?
So it's every Sunday. So the question was, how often do we do this? So every Sunday at 11 o'clock throughout the year, unless something tragic happens. We can't find a presenter, but the plan is every Sunday at 11. That's still right, isn't it? I agree? Yeah. And we are going to, I know it changes a little bit. Sometimes it's on Facebook, sometimes it's on YouTube or Zoom. COVID obviously has stopped us meeting face to face here in the Gumpa, but that's now freeing up, so that's starting again. But yeah, every Sunday at 11.
And Yeah, so is there any other retreat or some topics coming up or talks? Or
There are, yeah. So throughout the year, Rinpoche delivers a lot of courses and leads retreats, and they were all on our website. Mostly throughout the school term, so lining up with when school starts and when school finishes, there'll be a course here. Obviously now that COVID's reducing a little bit, we'll be able to start doing them here again, but if not, they'll still be online. And that's about an 8, 9, 10-week course that you can sign up through the website. Some of them are free, some of them cost money, some of them you can sponsor other people to give money so they can do them for free. Some of them might be just succinct 8-week courses and that's it, and others might go over to the next term and follow on. So even if they are ongoing continuous courses, you're still free to join in. You may scramble to catch up with a little bit of the info, but because you might have missed some of the earlier terms, but you're still free to join in if you wish. And the retreats are also on our website.
yeah. Thank you.
No worries at all. You're very welcome. All right, so we'll just conclude then with the dedication of merit. Again, it's something that the vast majority of Buddhist traditions do, because it's seen as a little bit selfish to do anything just purely for me. And as I mentioned, even if we sit and meditate, it's not really purely for me. We do that for me and for us, to make ourselves a little calmer, a little less stressed, a little closer to being a bodhisattva. But ultimately, we're doing that for everybody else. Because if we're a little less stressed, we can be more compassionate, we can be more loving, we can be more mindful and not lash out. When maybe last week when we didn't sit, we might have lashed out. So nothing we do really is just purely for ourselves. To bring that into our mind, we say the dedication of merit, which is at the bottom of your page. So by this merit, may we overcome the defilements and gain omniscience. May liberate all beings from the ocean of birth, old age, sickness and death. Hearing the Mahayana teachings, whatever merit I have accrued, may all beings become stainless vessels to hold the Mahayana teachings. Courageous Manjushri knew all things, and Samantabhadra did likewise. Following all of their examples, I shall dedicate all these merits. May the excellent bodhicitta take birth where it has not yet done so. Where it has been born, may it increase freely without degeneration. Thank you, and go well.